This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and colder, it can really take a toll on how we feel. Maybe that means calling your grandma, writing a letter to your friend, finally grabbing lunch with someone you haven't seen in a while. And just like reaching out to a friend, starting therapy can take a bit of courage. BetterHelp makes it easy to start therapy. You'll be matched with a licensed therapist based on your needs and preferences so you can focus on your growth and goals. Not happy with your match? You can switch therapists anytime with no hassle. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether that's checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. And our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PFF. That's betterhelp.com/PFF.
Last game that we got here, Monday Night Football. It's the Philadelphia Eagles coming off a bye, taking on the Green Bay Packers coming off a loss to the Carolina Panthers. You talking about the Eagles or the Packers here?
I'm going to get one last trade deadline story in here, and I'm really intrigued by these two moves, especially that the Eagles made to get Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins to play off the edge, and then to get Michael Carter from the Jets. The Jets made another earlier trade with the Eagles to send them Michael Carter, and I think what you have here is a scenario. I'm going to start with that because schematically that might be the most interesting trade out of anything. If they can get Carter back to his form from a couple of years ago, he wasn't really a good fit in Aaron Glenn's system. He's more of a zone coverage type of nickel. If they can get him back in a starting nickel kind of role for this team, I have to wonder if we're going to see Cooper DeJean. In that case, actually, it would be Cooper DeJean moving to the outside because we've noted the Eagles' cornerback issues across from Quinyon Mitchell with Adoree Jackson and Kaylee Ringo and guys really struggling on the outside there. I don't know about you. Actually, you had him as a top 10 player. I'd be perfectly fine with DeJean playing on the outside. I think he's perfectly capable of doing it. I think he would be just fine in this system, especially if they can get Carter to play reasonably well in the slot, right? And then as far as Jalen Phillips goes, I think he adds a really good level of pass rush as long as he's healthy that can really help this team. It's a thin edge defender unit. Josh Uche's been good in situational roles, but since Nolan Smith got hurt, they really haven't gotten enough out of this edge unit. You look at that pass rush win rate, that's the 12th best among qualified edge defenders this year, and they would both be first among all Eagles defensive linemen this year. If Jalen Phillips is healthy, that really adds a big name to this pass rush, and then later you get Nolan Smith back healthy down the stretch, and you're really looking good on this defensive line. And then I think, again, I'm very curious to see how quickly Carter can come along in this system, if he can be a starting nickel, and then if DeJean can play outside opposite of Quinyon Mitchell, and that secondary's fix as well.
Yeah, I think the question with Jalen Phillips has never been ability. It's just been availability, right? And then when you talk about him getting traded at the deadline, it has nothing to do with who he is as a player when he's out there. He's very impactful. He's very talented. And so for the Eagles, making their bet, hoping that he's going to be fully healthy for them the rest of the year. Yeah, I think that he is now going to be their best pass rusher from their edge group, especially while it's been a little bit banged up this year. So excited to see how that unfolds. And you know how I feel about Cooper DeJean. I think that he could absolutely be an outside cornerback. So if they need him to do that, I think he has the flexibility to do so. On the other side of things, we talk about the Eagles and say, hey, they got to be able to run the football, and they do. I went and I took a look at some of the stats and the data points from last year when they opened up the season against the Green Bay Packers, and it was one of those games where Hurts played well. Saquon Barkley actually I should say Saquon Barkley played well. A.J. Brown got his, and they were able to get a win there. That was the game that Jordan Love ended up getting hurt. But when I look at this game, if Philly's offense plays to its potential, I think they're going to win this football game. To me, the area where I feel the Green Bay Packers can have an advantage or at least disrupt what they want to do is when Jalen Hurts holds on to the ball a little bit longer. We've seen this so many times this season where he escapes the pocket, he's looking downfield, but he never feels like he has to throw the football. We've seen it so many times. Sometimes he'll scramble at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes he'll throw the football away. Sometimes he'll scramble and he'll pick up a couple of yards. I'm wondering if Jeff Hafley feels like the defense coordinator for the Green Bay Packers feels like he has the freedom to really designate a guy like Edgerrin Cooper to just spying Jalen Hurts. Because Edgerrin Cooper's closing speed is so fast. And that would speed up Jalen Hurts' process when he is getting out of the pocket, when he's breaking the pocket, continuing to extend plays and get those little scrambles and everything like that. When you have a speed demon who is triggering downhill as a quarterback spy, that gives you a lot less time to not only make a decision, but even like get to the sideline and, pick up a couple of yards or safely throw it out of bounds or whatever that looks like. When you can fluster Hurts in that regard, that's when I think that you really have an opportunity to take advantage of this Eagles offense and really sort of stall their offense that way. So I wonder if that's a game plan that they're going to implement, because when Hurts has so much time to process deep down the field, it's not that he's always making the big time throws, but it's just almost guaranteeing that he's not going to make a mistake when you don't pressure him like that, because he's so smart and he's not going to put the ball in harm's way. But if you got Edger and Cooper screaming right into where you're going, cutting you off a lot faster than you thought you were going to, speeding up that process, do you start putting the ball into harm's way a little bit? Do you get an extra turnover here to give you an extra possession? And maybe that is what means the most in this game. So it's in Green Bay. I think it's going to be tight. I like your score of 23-20. I might go 27-25, something like that in this game. And I'll actually take the Packers. I'll take the Packers to bounce back. I'm going to say the Packers win this game.
I'm going to go Eagles 23-20, like you mentioned. I think there's a couple of keys here for the Packers. Number one is, look, Jeff Hafley's been messing around too with the placement of Micah Parsons in some of these obvious passing situations. And if he's just going to be obviously he's going to be off the edge most of the time in this game. But does he attack the interior three with Parsons at all, or does he let him try to beat Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata off the edge? And Rashawn Gary may need to have a big game too. This is also the exact game where I would say the spotlight is on these outside cornerbacks for the Packers, Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. This, to me, on their defense is the biggest question. Can they handle this matchup against these two receivers? Can they handle the Rams with Nakua and Devontae Adams, right? Teams with big-time receivers on the outside. Can the Packers handle that? Even, we saw the earlier game against the Dallas Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb and with George Pickens, right? And you go, man, they gave up 40 points in that game. That was kind of a problem. I think games like this against big-time receivers are going to be a good barometer of where this Packers defense really is at throughout all 11, but I think it's going to be a fantastic football game. I like the way the Eagles offense has made their adjustments. Kevin Patullo has made the adjustments, getting under center more, getting in heavier personnel more the last couple weeks. I'll take the Eagles by a field goal.